Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading into the really profound world of meditation. We're looking at the teachings of Longpo Dul Adol. He's a very highly respected figure in Thai Buddhism, right? And our mission here is to really get to the heart of his meditation practice, specifically something called Bijisid.
Dujit, yeah. Which translates roughly as watching the mind. That's the core we're trying to understand today.
Okay, and just a heads up for you listening, this comes from a transcript of spoken instructions, originally in Thai. So the style might seem, quite direct, maybe even a bit repetitive sometimes.
Yeah, that's just the nature of the source material. It's practical guidance.
Exactly. So Luang Pudul's guiding someone, maybe new to meditation. Where does he usually start? What's the first step?
Often the initial practice he suggests is the mental recitation of Phutho, P-H-U-T-T-H-O.
Futo.
It's a very significant mantra in Theravada Buddhism. It's like bringing the qualities of the awakened one to mind. It's about planting a seed of awareness, really.
In the transcript mentions a specific place to focus this, like physically.
Yes, the heart area is often recommended, kind of a focal point for the mind, though he acknowledges other spots might work better for some people.
Right.
But here's the crucial bit early on. It's not just about, repeating Phutho endlessly. The real point is to notice who is doing the reciting inside your own mind.
Yeah. Okay. So it's less about the word itself and more about using it to notice the watcher, the awareness behind it.
Exactly. That's the very first spark of self-awareness the practice is designed to ignite.
Okay. So what happens when, inevitably, the mind starts wandering, throwing up distractions, thoughts, the usual stuff for beginners?
Well, the instruction is remarkably gentle, actually. When thoughts come up, and they definitely will, the advice is simply to notice them.
Just notice.
Yeah, acknowledge they're there, but without judging them, without getting sort of swept away by their story.
No frustration, no fighting.
None of that. The key is then gently, without any force, just guide your attention back to Phutho or whatever your focus point is.
A calm noticing and returning. It sounds, quite simple, but probably not easy in practice.
It takes practice, for sure.
And how long does this Phutho part go on for?
The teachings suggest it kind of naturally fades away as the mind settles down, as it becomes more concentrated.
Okay.
It's like a temporary support, a tool to quiet that initial mental chatter. It's not the end goal itself. Once things get a bit quieter, the focus shifts.
Like training wheels then?
Yeah.
Interesting. The transcript also mentions he offered alternatives sometimes, right? Not just Phutho.
Yes, absolutely. He seemed to recognize that different things work for different people. One alternative is using the breath.
Like focusing on the inhale and exhale.
Coordinating P-H-U-T with the inhale and the P-H-O with the exhale. Using that natural rhythm as the anchor instead.
Okay.
Or for some, especially if the mind is really restless, he might suggest focusing on a candle flame, a visual anchor.
So finding what works for you to just gather the attention initially.
Exactly. That's the key insight there. Find a starting point to bring the mind together.
Okay, so we've got these initial methods, finding some stillness. What comes next? How do we actually cultivate this mind-watching, this dujit?
Right. So once the mind has settled, even just a little, the focus shifts. It becomes about sustaining that awareness at your chosen point, whatever it was, heart, breath, whatever.
It's sustained awareness.
Now, when emotions come up, because they will, right? Joy, sadness, irritation, the instruction is to release them.
Release them. How?
Just let them pass. Don't engage with them. Don't get tangled up in the feeling. And then gently bring your attention back to the mind itself, back to that state of awareness.
It's like seeing a cloud float by. You see it, but you don't try to grab it.
That's a good way to put it. See the wave, but don't ride it. Don't analyze it.
Okay, so observe its presence, then redirect. Sounds detached.
Precisely. The practice is about becoming a detached observer of whatever is happening in the mind. No judgment, no analysis, no suppression.
Just knowing. The transcript uses that word.
Yes, simply knowing, being aware of what's present in mind right now. It's about cultivating this non-reactive awareness. That's really
It
fascinating.
requires some distance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's the aim of just knowing like that? What are we trying to understand?
The ultimate goal is to gradually understand the mind's inherent tendencies, its habits.
The habits.
Yeah, especially how easily it gets misled by what are called defilements, kana or kilesa in Pali Thai. These are things like greed, hatred, ignorance, the root causes of our suffering,
Ah, those usual suspects. We're watching to see how these pop up and try to take over.
Exactly. The transcript specifically mentions watching for the three big ones: desire, nakara raga, anger, and dosa, and delusion, tamoha.
Okay.
And a really crucial instruction here is Tingotan gothen gadia sang jitnark nork. Don't project the mind outward.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, stay with the feeling inside. Don't start chasing after what caused it externally or get lost in a story about it. Just be aware of the single emotion present right now. The insight is learning to see these patterns as they arise within you.
So if the mind drifts off thinking about why you're angry or what you desire,
You gently guide it back to just knowing the feeling itself. Or if it wanders away entirely, same process. Gently back to the original point of focus, like the breath or the heart space.
it's a continuous loop then. Noticing, releasing if it's an emotion, and returning the attention patiently.
Very patiently, yes.
And while all this internal observation is happening, are we still meant to be aware of our body? The transcript mentioned Nekiko Mulka. Senpai Janya.
Yes, absolutely vital. Complete self-awareness in the body. It's about not getting so lost inside your head that you forget you have a body sitting there.
Right.
It's an integrated awareness, present in mind, present in body, both together.
Okay. Now, meditation can bring up weird stuff sometimes, right? Not just thoughts or feelings, visuals, sounds. The transcript talks about makode nimitta.
Right, meditative signs or images. It distinguishes between visual ones. Wupadimitta.
Like seeing lights or figures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The instruction there is acknowledge them, see them, but don't fixate. Don't get fascinated or drawn into their story. Let them dissolve.
Don't chase the mental fireworks.
Precisely. And other kinds of sensory experiences, dhammanimitta, sounds, smells, etc., arising internally are generally just to be disregarded, treated as distractions.
So the focus stays firmly on observing the mind itself.
That's the core practice, yes. Don't get sidetracked by the phenomena.
And this observation isn't just about internal states, is it? It extends to how we react to the outside world, too.
Oh, definitely. The transcript emphasizes watching how the mind fluctuates in response to input from the six senses.
Six senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and...
And the mind itself, considered the sixth sense organ in Buddhism. It perceives thoughts and ideas.
Ah, right. So we're watching how the mind reacts to sights, sounds, smells, tastes, physical feelings, and thoughts. The likes, the dislikes, the judgments that pop up instantly.
Exactly. Watching that whole reactive process.
Okay. So through doing this sustained, detached, watching what starts to happen, where does it lead?
Well, by continuously observing the mind's activities and reactions, you start to understand the underlying causes and conditions. The itornfa, hetupakai.
The causes and conditions.
Yeah, why thoughts arise, why emotions flare up. It's like becoming a detective of your own inner world. You start seeing the patterns, the triggers, how it all connects.
So you go from just seeing what's happening to understanding why it's happening, the cause and effect.
Exactly. The defukna, the cause and effect relationships within your own mental landscape.
And what's the result of gaining that deeper understanding?
This insight, this understanding of the impermanent nature of thoughts and emotions and where they come from, it leads to them gradually losing their power over you.
They loosen their grip.
Yes. The mind becomes increasingly free from being constantly pushed and pulled by them. It's quieting.
A mind less cluttered, less reactive.
Yeah.
It sounds huge. The transcript also talks about the mind becoming independent from the body's sensations. How does that work?
As the mind gets more stable through this practice, less jumpy, it starts to experience itself as distinct from the body's feeling.
Like pain or pleasure.
Right. It stays anchored at its focus point, observing even discomfort or pleasure without getting completely overwhelmed or identifying with it. It sees them as just sensations passing through, not my pain in the same clinging way.
So not ignoring the body, but not being ruled by its feelings. And this isn't just thinking about it, right? The transcript really stresses this comes from direct experience, from wisdom.
Absolutely. It makes a key point. To truly know, you have to stop thinking. At least stop thinking in the usual analytical, discursive way. Intellectualizing about the mind is one thing. Directly experiencing its nature through this sustained, mindful observation is completely different. This direct seeing, ganhena, arises from wisdom, anya, that's cultivated through the actual practice.
Okay, I think I'm following the progression. Calm the mind, watch its activity, understand its patterns, gain freedom. Then the transcript mentions going beyond concepts. What's that about?
At this point, there's a clear, intuitive grasp of mind and body as distinct processes. The next step is a very subtle inquiry
Into what?
into whether there's any clinging, any attachment, ojit remaining, even to that refined point of focus, to awareness itself. It's a really deep self-check.
Wow. Questioning even the most subtle holding on. But the transcript says thought is still needed for this. That seems tricky if we're trying to stop thinking.
It's a delicate balance, yeah. Thought is used here almost like a precision tool to investigate these very fine levels of attachment. But the ultimate aim is still to go beyond conceptual thought entirely.
Okay.
The core practice continues. Unwavering observation of the mind cultivates deeper peace. And through that stillness, you get this profound understanding of how thoughts just arise from the mind are projected by the mind.
Like seeing the projector, not just the movie on the screen.
Exactly. And you start to see the nature of these thoughts, these mental fabrications.
What is their nature, according to this?
The transcript describes them as hapmaya, illusory, like phantoms, mirages, constantly arising, passing away with no real solid substance.
Okay.
And as you truly see and understand this illusory nature, the mental constructs that seem so solid start to diminish. They fall away. This is where Pakam thought comes in.
Grew up thought.
Yeah, like shedding or removing these mental forms, these constructs. And as they fall away, it leads to an expansion, a revealing of the more subtle aspects of consciousness.
So not shedding a physical body, but shedding these layers of mental stuff that obscure reality. Okay. This leads to a state described as effortless awareness. What's that like?
It's described as a state where the mind is totally free from punkanthang, mental fabrication, free from creating stories, interpretations, even free from thought itself.
No thought at all.
In this profound emptiness, well, the need for logic, for reasoning, just ceases. The mind has gone beyond concepts. It simply is, existing independently, unconditioned.
Wow, that sounds like ultimate freedom. The transcript uses the term mittandangan here.
Yes, that signifies the complete cutting off, the irreversible uprooting of all defilements, all those causes of suffering, greed, hatred, delusion, totally gone. It's the final result of this whole journey, a state completely beyond suffering.
From just reciting futo to that.
Yeah.
It's an incredible path. Then the transcript talks about the nature of reality from this perspective. What changes?
Well, once this true understanding is realized directly, the whole idea of doing anything becomes kind of irrelevant. There's no need to strive anymore.
Why not?
Because the natural state, brun bru, moman nai tu, just prevails for the one who knows. The effort drops away.
And what about the world? The things we perceive?
The realization dawns that the objects of our awareness, everything we normally take as solid and real out there, are ultimately not real in that fixed, independent way we assume.
So our usual reality is seen as like a projection we're no longer buying into.
Something like that. It's seen through as illusory. And the mind itself, having let go of all attachments, reaches true emptiness.
True emptiness.
There's nothing left to grasp. The understanding arises that the mind has no fixed form. It's not a thing.
What is it then?
It's experienced as unified with boundless, pervasive emptiness. The transcript calls it the pure, luminous emptiness of the original universe. It's non-dual, with everything perceived.
Mind unified with universal emptiness. Non-dual. That really pushes the boundaries of language, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Which leads to the next point about the silent knowers.
Right. Why the silence? Why don't people who reach this talk about it much?
Because the direct experience is just so far beyond concepts and words. Language can't capture it. Trying to describe it inevitably distorts it.
It's like trying to describe color to someone born blind.
Exactly. The mind sees itself clearly, and exists beyond ordinary conventional reality. It transcends our frameworks.
It's beyond labels. And this state, this realization, connects to nirvana, right? The kind of ni-fun.
Yes. Nirvana is described here as that ultimate union. The purified, luminous mind merging with the pure, luminous emptiness of the universe. The end of suffering. liberation.
Okay. Deep stuff. Now, switching gears slightly, Lun Kudul's teaching style was apparently quite unique. He preferred riddles.
Yes, Dharma riddles, short, enigmatic phrases rather than long lectures.
Why that approach?
The idea was to bypass the intellectual mind, Lengthy explanations can sometimes just create more concepts, more confusion. These riddles were designed to make you contemplate, to spark direct insight, not just give you information.
Makes sense. Short, potent, requiring you to really engage. The transcript gives examples like budumten dujit, mind absorption.
Right.
Or don't project the mind outward, which we discussed. And duajit wisdom, seeing the mind.
And these short phrases weren't just simple instructions.
No, they're described as incredibly packed with meaning, comprehensive. Implies that deep, unwavering focus inward. Is that constant reminder to stay internal. Points to the ultimate goal, that direct, intuitive seeing of the mind's true nature.
So powerful pointers. Now, while this transcript lays things out quite clearly for us, step by step, it also includes some really important warnings. Crucial warnings, yes. It strongly advises that if you're practicing this and you run into problems, difficulties, you should immediately seek guidance from experienced Vipassana teachers. Epaskanapa, Pepasandat. Immediately. Yes, it warns there can be significant harm if the practice is done incorrectly or if you get stuck without proper guidance.
That's really worth emphasizing. This isn't just a mental technique. It's deep work. Needs care, maybe expert help if things get confusing or difficult.
Absolutely. And another key point is that the real path has to be internal. It happens in the mind. Makaji. It's not just about external practices or rituals.
Though conduct matters, right? It mentions purity.
Oh, yes. Purity in conduct, purity in the Dharma practice itself, through body, speech, and mind are essential foundations. But the core transformation happens inside.
So it's holistic, but the engine is internal observation and understanding.
That's the gist. And it loops back to understanding suffering as the starting point. Meditation develops satisnumbun, complete mindfulness.
And that mindfulness is key.
It's the tool. By diligently following these steps, understanding suffering through mindful observation, you build a secure path. That complete mindfulness allows you to recognize the causes of suffering as they arise and let them go, abandon them.
Because without that training, the mind is just vulnerable.
Exactly. Untrained minds lack protection. Suffering arises and we get swept away. The transcript also mentions guarding against suffering, coming through the senses, linking it to these 3 types of effortless mental activity. Effortless mental activity. What are these? These are things the mind just does, automatically, without conscious effort. Understanding them is important. The first is,
okay, what's that?
It's simply the mind receiving input from the 5 physical senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. Seeing, hearing, smelling. The transcript emphasizes you can't stop this initial reception. Seeing just happens. Hearing just happens.
This is the raw data feed. So how do we work with that if we can't stop it?
Through Samdro Minsi, sense restraint, combined with mindfulness. So when you see something, you just register seeing. Hear something, just register hearing, without immediately slapping on judgments, likes, dislikes, mahitlang, no immediate conceptual overlay.
Creating a gap between the input and the reaction.
Exactly. It stops the mind from being instantly pulled into craving or aversion based on raw sense data.
Okay, that's the first one. What's the second effortless activity?
The second is this is the mind's inherent activity of producing thoughts.
The internal chatter.
Right, and just like sense input, the transcript says you can't just stop thoughts completely. The mind thinks. That's its nature.
So again, not about forcing a blank mind. How do we practice with thoughts then?
By acknowledging them when they arise, but crucially, without identifying with them, seeing them as not a being, not a person, not us or them.
Just mental events.
Yes. Observe them without judging them, without getting carried away by the emotions they might stir up. Maintain a neutral awareness. A thought. See it as a passing event, not me or mine.
Okay, observing thoughts without getting entangled. That fits perfectly with Duji. What's the third one?
The third is called...
Okay.
This refers to a spontaneous arising of joy or a smile without any conscious intention.
Just happens.
Yes, but the transcript notes this is something unique to enlightened beings. Santan Klakenbada Fraryojo. It's not something ordinary people, Tadmankan Samanchon, experience. It's seen as a natural result of having gone beyond those illusory mental constructs.
Like a natural radiance of a liberated mind. And why is it important for practitioners to know about these three effortless things?
Mainly so they don't try to forcefully manipulate their experience in meditation. If you try to force your senses shut or forcefully stop all thoughts or try to artificially generate joy, it just creates tension. It hinders progress.
Right. Understanding what's natural and effortless helps you work with the mind, not fight against it.
Precisely. Allows for a more realistic and accepting approach to the practice.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, the transcript includes some really interesting personal stories from Luangpur Perm about his early days training with Luang Pu Dul. What was his experience like as a novice?
Well, he recalls Luang Pu Dul giving very direct, simple instructions at first, how to sit properly, and then just mentally reciting "fu" with the key instruction: don't let the mind wander off. Keep it focused.
Classic starting point. Focus, concentration.
Right. And like pretty much everyone starting out, Luangpur Perm found his mind was, well, restless, all over the place.
The monkey mind. Yeah. Did he ask Luang Pu Dul about it? About all the stuff coming up?
He did. He asked, what is all this stuff arising during the Futo practice? And Luang Pu Dul's advice was basically, just keep going. Keep practicing diligently.
No complex explanation.
No, just reassurance that understanding would come through continued effort and observation. It really highlights that need for persistence, trusting the process.
Trust the process. Keep at it. Okay. Then Luangpur Perm had a pretty intense experience, didn't he? Something about a snake.
Oh, yes. A very vivid, apparently terrifying vision, a meditative image, of a giant black cobra appearing right in front of him during meditation.
Whoa. Yeah, that'd be scary.
Understandably, it scared him. He instinctively opened his eyes. Nothing there, no snake. He realized it was purely a mental creation, a product of his meditation state.
Okay. Still unsettling, I imagine. What did Luang Pu Dul say about that?
This is where the guidance gets really core to the teaching. Luang Pu Dul told him not to focus on the vision, the snake, or even the fear it caused. Instead, he said, look at your own mind. Observe your own heart mind.
Turn the attention inward again.
Exactly. Just observe the mind as it's engaged with Puton. Don't get caught up in the content of the experience. Focus on the process of experiencing, on the mind itself.
Stay with the observer, not the observed phenomenon. He used an analogy too, right? About a movie.
Yes, a really helpful one. He said it's like watching a movie. The images on the screen look real, very compelling, but their actual source is the film running through the projector. Similarly, these meditative experiences, like the cobra, can seem incredibly real, but they are ultimately just projections of the mind. The real focus should be on the mind itself, the projector.
That clarifies it really well. Focus on the source, not the projection. And he also talked about keeping the heart with the heart. What did that mean?
Heart with heart was another way of saying keep mindfulness, sati, continuously present with the mind. It's not necessarily about the physical heart location here, but about wherever thoughts and feelings arise.
So awareness and the mind staying connected.
Unbroken connection. Like he used the analogy of the image and the film again, or fire and its light. They arise together, inseparable. Mindfulness should be like that with the mind.
Always present. He contrasted it with a flickering light.
Right. The aim isn't intermittent awareness, like a light flickering on and off. It's cultivating a steady, continuous stream of mindfulness, a constant illumination of what's happening internally.
And this continuous mindfulness, this steady awareness, he called it the knower. No. Tuaru.
Yes. The knower is another term for this stable, continuous mindfulness. He even equated it with the Buddha in the Futo recitation. The one who is knowing, awake, radiant.
Okay. So Futo isn't just a word. It represents that knowing quality we're cultivating.
Exactly. And when that knower, that steady awareness is present, Emotions and thoughts can still arise.
Joy, sorrow.
Yes, but they don't overwhelm you. You don't get completely swept away or identify with them in the same way.
How did he put it?
He explained that joy and sorrow are seen more like different kinds of words, different labels for experiences, not ultimate truths you have to cling to or push away.
Just experiences passing through awareness.
Right. And when the mind doesn't grasp or cling like that, the result is peace, an absence of that constant mental agitation.
And for Longkhor Perm, following this guidance helped him overcome that initial fear and find peace and wisdom.
That's what he recounts, yes. Continuing the practice based on that core instruction, watch your own mind, keep mindfulness present, led him through the fear and toward inner calm and understanding. It's a powerful example of the teaching in action.
Definitely. Okay, as we start to pull this together, can we just recap some of the absolute core teachings from Luang Pu Dual that we've uncovered in this transcript?
Sure. I think some key takeaways are, first, the understanding that the real path, the Dharma, is found within your own mind. It's an internal journey.
Okay.
Second, the initial use of something like Futo isn't just recitation. It's to unify the mind and, crucially, to start observing who is doing it, that immediate self-awareness.
Right, the observer.
Third, the core practice of Dujit, learning to recognize emotions and defilements as they arise, without getting lost in them or projecting outward, just watching the mind's internal reactions to sensory input.
Developing that detached awareness.
Exactly. Fourth, developing wisdom panya, to see the mind clearly, understand its behaviors, realizing that true knowing isn't just intellectual thought. You have to, as he put it, stop thinking in that conventional way to truly see.
Direct experience over concepts.
Yes. And finally, that transcending mental fabrication, seeing through the illusion, leads to emptiness, to mahazunyata, the ultimate reality, realizing the mind's true nature is empty, boundless, non-dual.
And he explained how suffering fits into this, how it arises and ceases in relation to the mind.
He did. He pointed out the mind's natural tendency is to go outward, to engage with sense objects. Suffering samudaya arises when the mind reacts to that input with clinging, craving, or aversion.
Okay, the reaction is the problem.
Right. The path magga is cultivating that fully present mindfulness, that knower, which prevents the mind from being disturbed or reacting automatically to the input.
Mindfulness is the antidote.
Exactly. And the cessation of suffering nirodha is the result. It's that state of undisturbed, non-reactive awareness. He described enlightened beings as abiding, vihara, in a state where the mind just doesn't go outward reactively, isn't shaken, doesn't cling.
So the whole process essentially maps onto the Four Noble Truths, but applied directly to the workings of the mind.
Precisely. Suffering, its cause, reactive clinging, its cessation, non-reactive awareness, and the path, mindfulness practice. It's all right there in the observation of the mind.
This has been, wow, a really fascinating deep dive into Luang Pu Dual's teachings on Dujit. It's clear his path emphasizes this radical turn inward, a sustained, really detached observation of everything the mind does.
Leading ultimately to seeing through its limitations and realizing something much deeper, that unconditioned nature.
Yeah, this deep dive definitely gives us a valuable window into a very profound contemplative tradition.
It really does. It powerfully highlights the potential in simply knowing, just witnessing the mind without interfering.
Which brings us to a final thought for you listening. Considering this deep emphasis on non-reaction, on simply knowing what's present, how might consciously applying just a little bit of that principle, that detached observation, begin to reshape your own experience of the thoughts and emotions that come up in your daily life?
Yeah, something to chew on.
It's a question worth exploring maybe as you navigate your own inner world. We definitely encourage you to explore these ideas further if they resonate, and maybe consider the value of cultivating a bit more mindful awareness in your own life.